The world doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your struggles, your background, or your excuses. You either win or you don't. That's the reality, and the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can actually do something about it. Everyone out there is looking for a handout, waiting for someone to come and make their life easier. But let me tell you something. No one is coming. No one is going to knock on your door and say, hey, I noticed you're struggling, let me fix your life for you. That's never going to happen. The only person responsible for fixing your life is you. People love to sit around and complain, oh, I wasn't born into money, or I didn't have the right connections, or life is unfair. Guess what? Life has always been unfair. It's never been fair. The world has never been built to be the strong survive, the weak get crushed. That's just how it is. And you can either sit there and cry about it, or you can get up and start playing the game to win. No one cares about your struggle until you make it. No one cares about how many times you failed. They only care about the end result. So instead of looking for sympathy, start looking for solutions. Most people are stuck in a cycle of mediocrity because they refuse to take extreme ownership of their lives. They blame the system, the economy, their upbringing, everything but themselves. Let me tell you something. The moment you take full responsibility for everything in your life, that's the moment you start to become powerful. The moment you say, everything that happens to me is my fault, is the moment you take control. Because if it's your fault, you can change it. But if it's always someone else's fault, then you're powerless. That's why so many people stay stuck. They love being victims. They love the attention that comes with complaining. They love talking about their problems more than they love solving them. And that's why no one cares. Because the truth is, everyone's too busy worrying about their own problems to care about yours. You think people wake up in the morning thinking about you? They don't. They wake up thinking about themselves. That's why if you want attention, if you want respect, you need to earn it. You need to become someone worth noticing. The world respects results. That's why people idolize winners. That's why they cheer for champions, because winners prove something. Winners show what's possible. No one cares about the guy who almost made it. No one remembers the guy who came in second place. Everyone only remembers the winner. That's just how the world works. Pain is the greatest motivator. And the reason most people stay average is because they're too comfortable. They don't feel enough pain. They have just enough food, just enough money, just enough entertainment to keep them distracted. That's why they never reach their potential. They have no urgency. They don't wake up every morning feeling like their life is on the line. But let me tell you something. Until you get to a place where you are absolutely disgusted with where you are, you will never change. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. If you're comfortable, you're already losing. The people who succeed, the people who dominate in life, they take their pain and they use it as fuel. They don't sit around feeling sorry for themselves. They don't cry about how hard things are. They channel their anger, their frustration, their struggle into something productive. They let it push them forward. Every great man in history, every single one of them has been through immense struggle. But what separates them from everyone else is they didn't let that struggle break them. They let it build them. Most people see failure as a sign to stop. They take one hit, one setback, and they quit. But the winners, the ones who actually make it, they see failure as part of the process. They don't let it discourage them. They don't see it as defeat. They see it as data. Every loss is a lesson. Every setback is a test. The universe is constantly asking you, do you really want this? And most people don't. They think they do, but the moment things get tough, they fold. They weren't serious. That's why they lose. You have to understand that pain is the gateway to power. The people who achieve the most in life are the ones who have been through the most suffering. But instead of letting it destroy them, they used it. They used it to become stronger, to become smarter, to become unstoppable. Every time you feel pain, every time life hits you with something difficult, you have a choice. You can let it make you weaker, or you can let it make you stronger. And that choice is what separates the winners from everyone else. The biggest mistake people make is thinking that success is supposed to be easy, that they should be able to get what they want without struggle. That's why they quit so quickly. That's why they give up the moment things get hard. But success isn't supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be painful. It's supposed to be difficult, because that's what makes it valuable. If success was easy, everyone would have it. But the reason so few people make it is because most people aren't willing to go through the fire. They're not willing to endure the suffering that comes with it. And that's why when you finally do win, people start to care. Because they see the results. They see the transformation. They see the person you became. They didn't care about you when you were struggling, when you were failing, when you were in the trenches. But the moment you win, suddenly everyone wants to know you. Suddenly everyone wants to be around you because success attracts people. That's just how it works. So stop looking for sympathy. Stop waiting for someone to save you. Get up, take your pain, and use it. Because at the end of the day, no one cares about you until you win. The world does not care about your feelings. It does not care about your intentions. It only recognizes results. You can spend years talking about what you want to do, what you could have done, what should have happened, but if there's no tangible success to show for it, no one is going to take you seriously. People respect outcomes, not effort. They respect winners, not dreamers. You can sit around all day telling yourself that you're special, that you have potential, that you deserve more, but if your bank account says otherwise, if your physique says otherwise, if your reality says otherwise, then none of that matters. The world judges you based on what you produce, not what you think you're capable of. You ever notice how the world treats winners? They get respect, admiration, opportunities, and influence. They walk into a room and people pay attention. They speak and people listen, not because they are inherently more valuable than anyone else, but because they have something to show for their words. They have proof. Meanwhile, the losers, the ones who haven't built anything, haven't achieved anything, they can scream as loud as they want. No one cares. They can beg for validation, demand respect, but they don't get it because they haven't earned it. That's the brutal truth. People respect what they can see. Everyone is looking for shortcuts. They want respect without putting in the work. They want admiration without sacrifice. They want people to listen to them, but they haven't done anything worth listening to. That's not how life works. You don't get a seat at the table just because you exist. You have to earn it. You have to show people why they should care. You have to produce something undeniable, something that forces the world to acknowledge you. If you don't, you're invisible. No one owes you attention. No one owes you respect. You either prove yourself or you stay irrelevant. The only thing that matters in this world is execution. People spend too much time talking, planning, thinking, and not enough time doing. They want the perfect strategy, the perfect moment, the perfect conditions. But none of that matters if you're not taking action. The most successful people in the world didn't wait for everything to be perfect before they started. They started when they had nothing. They built momentum. They figured things out along the way because they understood that ideas are worthless without execution. You ever meet someone who always talks about what they're going to do? They always have a plan, always have a vision, but years go by and nothing happens. That's because they're addicted to the idea of success, not the work required to get there. They love the fantasy of winning, but they don't love the grind. They don't love the discipline, the sacrifices, the relentless effort it takes to execute at a high level. And that's why they stay stuck. Execution is what separates the winners from everyone else. It's what turns ideas into reality. It's what makes people take you seriously. You think anyone cares about the book you were going to write, the business you were going to start, the goals you were going to achieve? No. They only care if you did it, if you followed through, if you actually made it happen. That's why the people who execute dominate the world while everyone else just watches. You cannot rely on motivation. Motivation is a lie. It's a temporary feeling that comes and goes. It's easy to be motivated when things are going well, when you feel inspired, when everything is exciting. But what happens when you don't feel like it? What happens when you wake up and don't have the energy? When the process gets boring? When things aren't going your way? That's when most people quit because they were relying on motivation instead of obsession. Winners don't rely on motivation. They don't care how they feel. They don't wait for inspiration. They show up every single day, no matter what, because they are obsessed. They are consumed by their vision. They need to be motivated because they have already decided that success is the only option. It's not a matter of if they will succeed, it's only a matter of when. That's the difference. You ever see a champion athlete train? You think they're motivated every single day? You think they wake up excited every morning, ready to put in the work? No, but they do it anyway. Because they understand that success is not about feelings, it's about discipline, it's about consistency, it's about showing up whether you feel like it or not. That's what separates the great from the average. Most people quit too soon. They start something, they put in a little bit of effort, but the moment they don't see instant results, they give up. They tell themselves it wasn't meant to be, that they tried their best, but that's just an excuse. The truth is, they weren't committed. They weren't obsessed. They didn't have the mental toughness to push through when things got difficult. That's why they lose. If you look at the most successful people in the world, the ones who truly dominate, you'll see one thing in common. They are relentless. They don't stop. They don't make excuses. They don't wait for motivation. They execute every single day, with or without results, with or without inspiration, with or without support. They are obsessed with winning. That's why they make it. If you want to be successful, you need to kill the idea that you need to feel ready before you take action. You will never feel ready. There will always be obstacles, doubts, and uncertainties, but none of that matters. What matters is whether or not you execute, whether or not you take action even when you don't feel like it. That's the difference between those who win and those who don't. The world does not reward people who try. It rewards people who succeed. It rewards people who execute, who produce results, who prove themselves through action. If you want to be taken seriously, if you want to be respected, you need to stop talking and start doing. Because in the end, no one cares about what you were going to do. They only care about what you actually did. Your life is a direct reflection of what you tolerate. If you tolerate mediocrity, you will live a mediocre life. If you tolerate being out of shape, you will stay fat. If you tolerate being broke, you will stay. Everything in your life, every single thing is a result of the standards you set for yourself. And the problem with most people is that their standards are too low. They are willing to accept failure. They are willing to accept weakness. They are willing to accept a life that is beneath what they are capable of. And that's why they never rise above their circumstances. You ever wonder why some people seem to win no matter what? No matter what happens, no matter what obstacles come their way, they always find a way to come out on top? It's because they refuse to accept anything less. Losing is not an option for them. They don't give themselves an escape route. They don't allow themselves the luxury of excuses. They demand more from themselves, and as a result, they get more. Meanwhile, the average person settles for whatever life gives them. They say things like, well, at least I have a job. At least I'm not as bad as that guy. At least I tried. And that's why they stay stuck, because they keep justifying their own mediocrity. The truth is, if you really wanted to change your life, you would. People lie to themselves every day. They say they want to be rich, but they don't work like rich people. They say they want to be fit, but they eat like pigs and skip workouts. They say they want success, but they spend their time watching TV, playing video games, and wasting hours on nonsense. You don't get what you want in life, you get what you demand. And most people don't demand much. The reason high achievers succeed is because they set non-negotiable standards. They don't allow themselves to be weak. They don't allow themselves to slack off. They don't accept failure as an outcome. If they get knocked down, they get back up. If they lose, they figure out what went wrong and correct it. They don't tolerate laziness in themselves. They don't tolerate failure. They don't tolerate anything that doesn't move them closer to their goals. And this isn't just about effort. It's about identity. If you see yourself as someone who is weak, who is average, who is destined for mediocrity, then you will live a life that reflects that. But if you see yourself as a winner, as someone who demands the best from themselves, then you will act accordingly. Everything starts with your mindset. If you allow yourself to believe that failure is acceptable, that quitting is okay, that being average is just part of life, then that is exactly what you will get. You need to destroy that mindset completely. You need to hold yourself to a higher standard. You need to refuse to accept anything less than excellence. The fastest way to change your life is to raise your standards. Right now, not tomorrow, not next week, Right now, look at every area of your life, your health, your finances, your relationships, your work ethic, and ask yourself, what am I tolerating that I shouldn't be? Be brutally honest with yourself. Because if you keep tolerating weakness, if you keep allowing yourself to make excuses, then nothing will ever change. And let me tell you something. Your environment plays a huge role in this. The people you surround yourself with will determine your standards. If you hang around losers, you will become a loser. If you spend time with weak people, you will become weak. That's just how it works. Humans are social creatures. We absorb the energy and habits of the people around us. So if you are serious about leveling up, you need to take a hard look at who you're spending time with. You ever notice how winners stick together? How rich people hang out with other rich people? How successful people surround themselves with other high achievers? It's not a coincidence. It's because they understand that their environment shapes them. They don't waste time with people who don't push them forward. They don't tolerate negativity, weakness, or excuses. They only associate with people who challenge them, who push them to be better, who hold them accountable to their highest standards. Most people are held back because they are surrounded by people who keep them comfortable. Friends who make excuses for them. Family members who tell them to take it easy or be realistic. And before they know it, they've absorbed that weak mentality. They've allowed themselves to get stuck in a cycle of mediocrity because they've been programmed by the people around them. If you want to win, you need to break out of that. You need to be around people who demand greatness from you, people who push you, who challenge you, who make you uncomfortable in the best way possible. This is why networking is so powerful. This is why being in the right rooms around the right people changes everything. Because success is contagious. When you're surrounded by winners, you start thinking like a winner. When you're around people who are making millions, you start seeing opportunities instead of obstacles. When you're in an environment where high standards are the norm, you have no choice but to rise to that level. But let me warn you, this isn't easy. The moment you decide to raise your standards, to improve your life, to get around better people, you will face resistance. The people in your current circle, the ones who are comfortable, who are content with mediocrity, they will try to hold you back. They will say you've changed. They will call you arrogant. They will try to make you feel guilty for wanting more. This is the test. Do you stay where you are because it's comfortable? Or do you push forward, even if it means cutting people off, even if it means being misunderstood, even if it means walking alone for a while? Winners make the hard choices. They do what's necessary, not what's easy. They put themselves in environments that force them to grow, that challenge them to be better, that expose them to higher levels of thinking. And because of that, they win, they dominate. They become the kind of people others look up to, the kind of people who set the standard for everyone else. The bottom line is this: if you want to win, you need to stop tolerating anything that keeps you from your goals. You need to surround yourself with winners. You need to be ruthless about your standards and your environment. Because at the end of the day, the people who demand the most from themselves, the ones who hold themselves to the highest standards, are the ones who rise to the top. Most people are too soft to win. They've been conditioned to believe that life is supposed to be easy, that success should come without suffering, that everything should just fall into place. And that's why they lose, because they are weak, because they are fragile, because the moment life gets difficult, they crumble. You see it everywhere. People who quit at the first sign of resistance, who break down when things don't go their way, who expect the world to hand them everything on a silver platter. But that's not how the world works. The world belongs to the strong. It belongs to those who can take the punches, who can keep moving forward even when everything is stacked against them. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Weak people suffer because they let pain defeat them. They let it define them. They sit around feeling sorry for themselves, making excuses, waiting for someone to come and save them. But the strong don't do that. The strong take their pain and turn it into power. They use it as fuel. Every setback, every hardship, every obstacle, they use it to make themselves stronger. That's the difference. The people who win in life are the ones who have mastered the ability to endure pain without breaking, without quitting, without losing focus. They don't just survive hardship, they thrive in it. You look at any champion, any billionaire, any person who has truly made it to the top, and you will see someone who has suffered. You will see someone who has been through hell and refused to stay there. That's what makes them different. They don't complain. They don't dwell on the past. They don't let pain consume them. They take control, they take responsibility, and they make something out of it. The problem with most people is that they have never experienced real adversity. They've never been pushed to their limit. They've never been tested, and because of that, they have no resilience. The moment life gets tough, they fold. They panic, they break down. That's why so many people stay stuck in mediocrity, because they are terrified of discomfort. They are terrified of struggle. They are terrified of pain. But what they don't realize is that pain is the greatest teacher. Pain forces you to grow. Pain forces you to adapt. Pain forces you to evolve. If you never go through anything hard, you will never become strong. This is why most people never achieve greatness. Because greatness requires suffering. It requires sacrifice. It requires long nights, early mornings, endless hours of work that no one sees, no one appreciates, and no one applauds. It requires doing things that most people would never be willing to do. And that's why most people don't have what they want, because they aren't willing to pay the price. They aren't willing to go through the pain. They want the reward without the struggle. But that's not how it works. The moment you stop fearing pain, the moment you embrace it, is the moment you become dangerous. Because now, nothing can break you. Nothing can stop you. No matter what life throws at you, you will keep going, you will keep building, you will keep winning. That's what separates the winners from everyone else. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's mental toughness, it's resilience. It's the ability to keep moving forward even when everything in you wants to quit. If you want to win, you need to train yourself to be comfortable with discomfort. You need to stop avoiding pain and start embracing it. You need to see every hardship, every challenge, every moment of suffering as an opportunity to grow stronger. Because the more you endure, the more unstoppable you become. The more pain you can take, the more power you have. That's the truth. The weak seek comfort. The strong seek challenges. That's why the weak stay weak and the strong get stronger. The weak avoid anything that makes them uncomfortable. They avoid struggle. They avoid discipline. They avoid anything that requires effort. And as a result, they never grow. They stay in the same place year after year, making the same excuses, living the same life, never changing. Meanwhile, the strong actively seek out difficulty. They put themselves in uncomfortable situations on purpose. They push their limits. They force themselves to grow. And that's why they win. If you look at any successful person, you'll see one thing in common. They have all done things that most people are unwilling to do. They have all made sacrifices that most people wouldn't make. They have all suffered in ways that most people couldn't handle. That's the price of success. There is no easy way. There is no shortcut. If you want to be great, you have to be willing to go through hell. You have to be willing to do what others won't. Most people don't have what it takes because they are too emotional. They let their feelings control them. They let their emotions dictate their actions. And because of that, they are inconsistent. One day they're motivated, the next day they are lazy. One day they are disciplined, the next day they are making excuses. That's why they don't win, because they are slaves to their emotions. Winners don't operate like that. Winners do what needs to be done no matter how they feel. They don't care if they're tired. They don't care if they don't feel like it. They don't care if they are frustrated, sad, angry, or unmotivated. They get up and do the work anyway, because they understand that emotions are irrelevant. Success doesn't care how you feel. It only cares about what you do. You ever wonder why the best athletes in the world train every single day, no matter what? Because they understand that consistency is everything. They know that if they let their emotions dictate their actions, they will lose. That's why they develop discipline. That's why they operate with absolute control over themselves. Because they know that emotions are temporary, but results are permanent. This is what separates the winners from everyone else. The ability to act regardless of emotion. The ability to stay focused no matter what. The ability to push through even when everything in them wants to stop. That's the mindset you need if you want to win. You need to be in complete control of yourself. You need to be able to do what needs to be done without hesitation, without doubt, without excuses. The truth is, life is going to test you. It's going to throw obstacles in your way. It's going to try to break you. And if you are weak, If you let your emotions control you, you will fail. But if you develop mental toughness, if you learn to master yourself, if you build the ability to take action no matter how you feel, then you become unstoppable. That's what separates the elite from everyone else. Most people let their emotions hold them back. They let fear stop them from taking risks. They let doubt stop them from chasing their dreams. They let laziness stop them from doing the work. And as a result, they stay stuck. They never reach their potential. They never achieve what they truly want. All because they let temporary feelings dictate their entire lives. If you want to win, you need to kill that weakness. You need to develop the ability to act in spite of fear, in spite of doubt, in spite of discomfort. You need to become someone who moves forward no matter what, because that's the only way to succeed. That's the only way to separate yourself from the rest. That's the only way to truly dominate in life. Most people live their entire lives being controlled. They are slaves to their emotions, their routines, their circumstances, and most importantly, the system designed to keep them weak. From the moment they are born, they are programmed to follow the rules, to conform, to obey. They are told to go to school, get good grades, get a job, pay their bills, and live a quiet, predictable life. And they do it. They follow the script without question, without resistance, without ever realizing that the entire system is designed to keep them in place. That's why the majority of people never break free. They never build real wealth, real power, or real independence because they never take control of their own minds. The first step to winning in life is realizing that everything you have been taught is designed to keep you weak. The reason most people never achieve greatness is because they have been programmed to believe that they can't. They have been conditioned to accept mediocrity. They have been brainwashed into thinking that struggle is normal, that suffering is just a part of life, that success is reserved for the lucky few. But that's a lie. The truth is, you can have anything you want: money, power, freedom, respect. But only if you take control. Only if you stop letting the world dictate your future. Only if you refuse to be another pawn in the system. You have to understand that the world does not want you to win. The world wants you to be average. The world wants you to be weak, broke, and dependent. Because weak people are easy to control. Broke people are easy to manipulate. That's why society rewards mediocrity and punishes ambition. That's why people will criticize you the moment you try to break free. The second you decide you want more, the second you start thinking differently, working harder, pushing yourself beyond what's normal, you become a threat. And the system does not like threats. That's why the majority of people will try to bring you back down. They will tell you to slow down, to relax, to just be happy with what you have. But that's the trap. That's how they keep you weak. You have two choices in life: be controlled or take control. Be a follower or be a leader. Be weak or be strong. Most people will spend their entire lives being told what to do, living paycheck to paycheck, accepting whatever crumbs the system throws their way. But the ones who truly win, the ones who build real wealth, real power, real influence, they take control. They break free from the programming. They stop listening to the opinions of the average. They do whatever it takes to put themselves in a position where no one can tell them what to do. That's real power. That's real success. And the only way to get there is by refusing to live like everyone else.